Every now and then, I don't have one particular idea that I'd like to get across. It ends up being this hodgepodge of different little mini projects. I've got a little work to do on this aquarium. I've got some new fish. I've got new projects. A couple of real exciting projects coming up. I'm going to tell you all about it right after this. Hey YouTube, this is Pecktec, and I could use some help identifying my gobies. So you might remember I went up north with Chattanooga Ed and Fish Room Fever. We toured a couple of nice fish rooms, the no filter aquariums, I believe is what that video was called. But while I was there, I got some gobies, and they were sold to me as a Indian dragon goby and red spot gobies. I think that's what they were. I'm not so certain that's actually what I got. Like, when I compared them to pictures online, they don't seem, they don't completely match. And I know that can happen. Maybe they're not super happy in here, and the colors aren't right. But it doesn't really seem that way because I mean they're eating. I did have only one pass away, and in fact recently, but they're eating and everything else seems okay. So I'm not really sure. But I'd really like to know for sure what they are. Don't forget to comment and ID. I took as close-up pictures as I could. Be sure to let me know what kind of gobies those are. If I'm incorrect, I'd like to know. I really like to know exactly what they are. Their behavior is really interesting. They don't seem to chase the different species a lot, maybe just a little bit. But the ones that were sold to me as the red spot gobies, when they see each other, they kind of chase each other around. And I think that's pretty common with same species with dominance and stuff. I've got one small one now. I started off with two small ones and one large one. Now I've got one small one and one large one. The large one behaves quite a bit differently than the other ones. Like the other one, when it will bury itself, it usually will like leave the head out. It'll kind of go in up to its eyeballs and look. The big one seems to go all the way in. And it does it with a lot of gusto. It's like, literally, there's just the explosion of sand usually, and then he's gone. He's just somewhere underneath there. And I've never seen him come out of the sand. I imagine he just kind of emerges out of the sand. I think that's really neat. The other thing, the ones that are sold to me is is it Indonesian? I think it was Indonesian dragon gobies. Might be, I want to say Indian dragon gobies. Probably Indonesian dragon gobies. Anyway, the two that I have, one's a bit bigger than the other one, and it seems to exert some dominance over that. Again, those two, the big one chases the smaller one around quite a bit. What's really interesting about them is they seem to ignore the sand. They don't really care. They don't dig in the sand at all. They just kind of run around on the surface. They're more likely to be found up on rocks and plants and stuff like that. They kind of explore a bit more. They do kind of stay towards the bottom. If there's food floating around, like especially brine shrimp or something like that, they'll kind of swim up and go to eat it. Something really fascinating about them too is while they're on the rocks or plants, or if they're hanging out that way, they have a real dark complexion to them. And then they go to the sand, and then they turn almost the same color as the sand, almost the same color as the red spot gobies. It's really interesting. There'll be like one dark spot on the fin that's still dark, but the rest of them just kind of goes into this sort of gray mottled color. You guys might remember Black Friday, Kerrigan and I went shopping, and one of the fish we saw were these spotted blue eye rainbows. And I was talking to a person in the comments, and he was like, wow, I would have picked those up. And I was like, well, I couldn't get 6 of them, and they're kind of expensive. He was like, well, I would have gotten 3 of them or something like that and like tried them out. So I couldn't stop thinking about it. Thanks a lot, buddy. I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I went back today and actually got some. My betta that was in this flora over here passed away. It's a platinum beta, and he just kind of died out of nowhere. So that's too bad. I also had pencil fish in there, and I've taken all the pencil fish out, and I've moved them to another tank. And I found 2 females. I think I got 2 females and 1 male that looked really nice. And I've put them in here. It's a little small, but it's a very, very mature tank with like lots and lots of plants. The pencilfish bred in there. So I'm hoping that maybe I'll get lucky and maybe I'll get some baby rainbows. I'm going to have to do a little bit more research to see what works. I try to get more live food like for these gobies that I've fallen in love with. So hopefully I can condition these guys in here too and maybe have some more rainbows. That'd be great. Another fish I got on Black Friday was the rainbow goby, I believe they're called, and they're a grazing goby. They kind of just graze along the glass or plants and wood and off flocks of all sorts. I liked it so much I went back and got 2 more, and I've added one to my I've added one to the tank over here, my 25-gallon cube, and I've added one in here with the gobies. So another goby in the goby tank. Originally, when I set this tank up, I was throwing coolie loaches in there. I love the striped coolie loaches, especially. One of my favorite fish. They kept passing away. And like I'd find a body, and people were saying too, you know, if you don't see a body, then they're just hiding. But I've got one. There he is too. I've got one that runs all around in here. And he seems really skinny. And I did find a couple of bodies and pulled them out, unfortunately. I know that coolie loaches, they're a scaleless fish, and they're kind of prone to disease. So there's a chance that maybe they were just all sick or something like that. But I've got one, and he seems to have outlasted all the other ones, and I'm hoping that he does well. They've been really fascinating to watch. Actually, my workstation for work is right here. So this tank ends up being the one that I look at. Like I've got all these beautiful tanks that don't have any issues over here and kind of behind me. But this is the only one that's in my field of view while I'm working. So it's really annoying that it's like covered with hair algae right now. It's got it needs a major haircut. You might remember I put a little mini BCB basket in the top of the filter here. Prior to putting that in there, it tested about... it was really low. It wasn't 0 nitrates, but it wasn't at the next level. It was kind of the colors were between that. Let's say like 0.3 or 0.03. I don't know precisely. And it's hard to know with those master's tests. You know, this little, not the color strips, but like the liquid master's test. Even with that, I mean, you get a more accurate reading than the strips, of course, but it's still pretty hard to tell precisely what that level is. But it certainly didn't test very high. It didn't test in a very high range that you would think would just cause an algae outbreak. And I just tested this again today, and it is at absolute 0. So it is nitrate free, but it accumulated a lot of hair algae in that time. And the whole, like, it's mostly on the hardscape. Like the plants seem okay, but the hardscape is really, really covered. When you're fighting algae and stuff, you should not do what I'm doing. Because what I'm doing is I'm hitting it from a bunch of different angles at once, and you won't really know what it was that worked, right? So I got 0 nitrates. I got that down. I don't know if that's the BCB filter or not. Hopefully it is. Hopefully that's part of it and it's doing its job. I think at the bare minimum, that thing's going to be a really awesome filter for bacteria. You know, it'll hold the bacteria and it'll be good for that. A lot of people are saying it's too small to be effective, you know, but if you think about the little bags of ceramic material or sintered glass or whatever that stuff is, I mean, they aren't much bigger than that cube. And the also even the, you know, carbon, and I know carbon works a little differently, but, you know, that little square that I made takes up about the same amount of area as any one of those things in that filter. So I'm not completely convinced that it would be ineffective, or at least completely ineffective. Maybe not as effective, but we're talking about percentages here. It doesn't have to be 100% as good as like the big ones you put in a pond. It just has to work a bit, especially since things weren't really out of hand in here as far as the nitrates go. I do kind of wish I had a plenum on this, and if it just keeps being a problem, I probably will just take this tank apart, put a plenum on it, and replant it, put everything back in, kind of like I did the 20-gallon, which has given me 0 problems. The light that was on there before, I believe it was an Aquasky Light. did really well and seemed to grow plants, but I was afraid that was contributing to like maybe too much light, and I didn't really want to cut it back. I'd already had it kind of at a minimal 5.5 hours, um, but it was like blasting, like literally blasting it with light. I think the light that I have would actually work on a much larger tank, and I'm going to put it aside and kind of save it for another project like that. But on Black Friday, I came across one of these Aquasky lights, and they had these for 50% off. So I got this for about 30 bucks. It's a pretty small light, as you can see. It's got these little rails on it, so you can sort of extend it. But this is a really, really short light. It's pretty strong. It's not nearly the strength of the last light that I had on there. I like the way it attaches though, with these little feet. Makes it real easy to put on there without interfering with the glass part on top. And of course, my favorite feature is the ability to ramp it up and down and use the app. With this app, I can control the time of day that it comes on, and the amount of blue and red, and all the different color LEDs that are on there. It's really neat. Here, I'll run through a little preview. We can watch it. And so what it'll do is it'll slowly ramp up in the morning, and then it kind of peaks for a few hours, and then it ramps down. So I get to enjoy the creatures that are inside of the tank for a longer period of time. And because of that, I don't know. So I can watch my gobies in the morning with the light really, really dim. The fish really seem to react to that too. They love to come out at like twilight and in the evening and stuff. They really do seem to appreciate that. You can see it slowly fading out. Now it'll do that. It's on like a fast forward right now. It'll do that over the course of several hours. And it's really interesting to watch. It's kind of fascinating. You can also set it like, if you like those cloud effects where it's kind of dim and kind of the clouds move around and stuff, you can set those too on these Aquasky lights. Incidentally, this one runs off the same app, and the Mega Flex downstairs runs off the same app, and the Flora that I have the orange shrimp in, if you watched my videos before, it also has that light. So I have now quite a few of these lights connected on here, and I can mimic the settings if I want them to, like, kind of mimic each other and act in a similar way. But I really like the extended photo period. I've had good luck with it up here. Like, it hasn't caused any algae issues up here. The Megaflex, I wondered if it was, but I just kind of toned it down a little bit at the brightest part of the day and was able to keep like the really long period. So now I've gone from having light on in my aquarium for like 5 or 6 hours to almost 10 or 12 hours. Like I can really extend it out, and I really like that. And I think my fish like it too. I think it's a lot more natural way, instead of just the light comes on, light goes off. These days, with the way LEDs work and the way science works, you should be able to do those kinds of things. The main downside I've found with the Aquasky lights is that if the power goes out, they seem to just like they lose their settings. As soon as you connect with the app, they kind of come back and then they work again. I'm not certain if maybe they kind of like they reset their clock and they'll still come on and do things, or if they'll just stay off indefinitely. And I don't know, because they're usually off when I go to do it, but there's a fair amount of the day when they are off, that whole night period. So I'm not sure what they're reset to. Like if they come on and they're flashing 12 and they think it's 12 a.m., maybe they'll be dark until it gets to 9 o'clock or so when that comes on. And because I look at this all the time, I've decided I'm going to pull these rocks out, just take all the algae off and put it back. And that's my project for this afternoon. I was a little disappointed that both a higher sand cap and a BCB filter didn't just like eliminate this algae, but I think this particular type of hair algae I'm going to have to remove. Like, I don't think I can kill it that way. What's there may not grow as well. And a lot of people, whenever I bring up hair algae, they're like, throw in some Amano shrimp. Well, The problem is a lot of the mono shrimp that I could get. Now, I have some big adults around in my other tanks, but they're really happy in there, and I don't want to move them. And if I get some new ones from a fish store, they're going to be tiny, and I think that the small ones will get gobbled up or maybe attacked by these gobies, because they really seem to like things that are alive. I have a feeling that if I threw cherry shrimp or even my orange shrimp or anything like that in there, that they would be eaten. The adults would probably do okay, but they still might get chased and like legs bitten off and stuff, and that's enough to make a shrimp die anyway. So what I'm about to do is I'm going to pull this out. Hopefully it'll look okay. I'm going to pull these rocks out, and I'm going to scrape that algae off and kind of hit them with some hot water, maybe some bleach water or something like that, and just really clean those rocks off. In fact, I might just go get some more rocks and replace them because they're rocks, you know. Another thing I probably will do is I'm going to implement some CO2 on here. I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of things first and kind of see what works before I do that. I have another little product that I want to put on there, mainly because I'm pulling this up and there's going to be a lot of free-floating algae and stuff in here. It's crystal clear in here. It looks like a healthy tank as far as like the water tests great all the way across. Very good. It's nice and clear. Literally the only problem in here is the hair algae. So I'm going to be plucking a lot of that out. It's mostly on the rocks. I'll pull the rocks out, but it's also a little bit on a couple of the plants in the back. So I'm going to pull them out too. And I'm going to also, I talked about this thing a long time ago. What it is it's a UV bulb, and it fits on the end. It's kind of hard to tell how it works, but it fits on the end. It like clips onto your hang on the back filter. It clips on there, and there's a little ramp, and the water can run around, and it goes around inside this tube, and it comes out the side. And anything that it can't get in here, like if it starts to overflow, it just kind of flows over the top. And it's kind of like an extra little ramp over the top. So I'm going to put this in there too, at least short term. And I'm going to put it on a timer so it's only on for a little bit a day. Maybe the first couple of days I'll leave it on for 8 hours or so. And that's mostly like if any of this hair algae is like floating around and it might end up in another part of the tank and stuff. If it does happen to get sucked up into the filter, I'd like to zap it with some light. Or I don't know if there's little tiny pieces or spores are released when I do. I really don't know a lot about algae. At least not in the minutia area of different things about algae. But I've had this sit in the garage, and I thought, why not add it into the million things I've done to try to make a little 10-gallon tank look good. Decided I'd like to use this samurai stone. Sorry, it's a little dramatic with the light that I've got here. The samurai stone, which is a nice red color with some kind of white veins in it. This is one I originally got for the Let's Face It tank. And I'm going to see how that looks in there. Now, because a couple of these fish that I have in there like to dig, I'm going to kind of probe the sand here. Make sure nobody's hiding back where I want to stick this rock, which is right back here. Yeah, hopefully the coast is clear. I'll move this over a little bit. Got a plant that's just kind of grown up back here that I didn't even know was there because it was growing behind those rocks. I'll bring it forward a little bit. Just in case anybody made it back there, I'm going to go real slow. Just going to set it like that. I also decided that I'd like to put some wood in here. There's no wood in this tank at all, and I kind of like to mix things up with wood a little bit. So I've found a couple of nice pieces. I've also got this, which is like I think this is spider wood. And I'm thinking it'll kind of like keep this rock from being so kind of in your face, kind of break up the visual of that rock a little bit. I'm going to return the Java fern that I had kind of going across the top of the other one and put it in there. Like keep the plants growing all around. Yeah, adding little bits of wood in here and there really helps break up the aquascape and keeps the hardscape from looking too stagnant. All right. There was no wood in here before. Now there's quite a bit. Wood's also good for kind of establishing territories for the different fish. Fish that need that territories in their life. They appreciate having some landmarks. Wood's a great place for mounting plants, especially anubias. Yeah, that seems a bit better. It's still a bit foggy. I like the addition of the rock. It's a nice background. It really changes things up a little bit, and then the wood kind of intermixed in there. It's kind of hard to see right now, but you know, you've got little bits of wood and stuff kind of mixed in there. Maybe if I darken this up, it'll be a little, yeah, kind of mixed in there. This light is pretty dim. I'm hoping it'll. I actually see it a little bit better with my eyes than I'm seeing in the back of the camera, but I'm hoping it'll do okay. I wish I grabbed two of them, though. Two of these I think on here would be about perfect. And definitely too late for that. I went back the day after Black Friday to try and get a second one, and the sale was already over. So, I don't know, maybe I'll get Fluval. Maybe Fluval will be nice and send me another one of those lights or a bigger one or something. That would be cool. But I definitely like the ability to take this light up and down during the day, and I like the new Aquascape. Hopefully, the combination of the dimmer light, the different schedule, the BCB filter, and the little UV filter that I've got on there, the combination of all those things, hopefully will keep this hair algae free for a while. There's not a lick of it in here right now, so hopefully it stays that way. Probably not, but I guess you never know. We can hope for the best, right? Okay, so I have an exciting new tank build for Christmas. And I'd like to thank my friends at Seven Ports for, again, sponsoring me to build an even bigger tank. Now, you might have tuned in for I think it's a 25-gallon cube that I set up over the summer. It is beautiful. It looks fantastic. And now I have a 43-gallon. This one's a little different. It doesn't have the filter in the back. It doesn't have the built-in filter in the back compartment like the other cube that I made does. So I am going to use a canister filter, and I've got a Wasa Thermo 350 with a built-in heater to run it. I think that's going to be great. The folks at Seven Ports are really setting me up for success. I'm getting CO2 stuff. I'm getting glass stuff. My local fish store carries a lot of their aquariums and their other products like the Viv products, and Seven Ports kind of encompasses a bunch of different brands like Azu and Viv and a bunch of other things. I'm going to leave a link to their website down below. If you like rimless tanks especially, they have a lot of different options for rimless tanks. I was very, very tempted by this sort of low boy tank that they have that looks really neat, because I've seen a lot of really cool low boy tanks. There was a small 11-gallon one at the store, but they have them up to, they have quite a few of them that get much bigger. And they have teeny tiny tanks up to really pretty large tanks. I think 90 gallons was the biggest one. I'll get into a lot more details about specifically the tanks that I'm getting. Well, the tank that I'm getting is called a Rainbow. I think it's called the Rainbow or something like that. It's a low iron glass rimless tank with a black background. So that's pretty cool. This one is going to replace the 27-gallon cube, the one I've been forbidden from really touching. This one should be a bigger, better version of that tank. I'm going to take the plants that have been growing in that tank, I'm going to transfer them over, along with maybe some plants from other tanks too, since it's going to be quite a bit bigger. That tank is not being completely decommissioned. I'm going to take it into the garage, I'm going to clean it up, and maybe sometime later in the summer, I'd like to turn it around. See, the glass in the front of that tank, it's been around for quite a while. I built it right here on this channel, and it's gotten scratched. It's gotten really scratched. I've completely moved away from metal scrapers the best I can, and every time I've used one, I've ended up with a scratched tank. Now it's all sponges and old credit cards, but yeah. So the front of the glass is kind of scratched up, but the back's really hasn't been touched much at all. So if I can clean that up and get it looking really good, I might be able to just flip it around, bring it back in as a tank later on. But in the meantime, I'm doubling the size of my tank in the living room, and I'll have another really large tank. Not super large, but large for me, okay? 27 gallons to 43 gallons it's a bit of an improvement. I really can't thank Sevenports enough for believing in me and wanting me to show you how beautiful their tanks can be. I'm really excited to show you to show it to you. It's really cool. I've been shopping around and trying to figure out what all I need for it over the past couple of weeks, and I think I might get it in time to maybe do a video for Christmas. If not, it'll be one of the first videos for next year. Okay, and speaking of next year, I've got another project that I want to do. Now, this one is a bit different for the channel. In fact, it's very different for the channel. Recently, I did something similar with Mr. Novak, or Dr. Novak. I did that long-form video interview. But I want to do that. I'm going to do that some more. In fact, I'd like to basically start a podcast. I won't do it completely out of this channel. I'm very tempted to. I probably will at first. What I'm going to do, I'm going to do 10. I'm going to do 10 interviews, and they'll be in long form. When you hear the name, I'm going to save a few surprises for later. As far as who it's going to be, there'll be people you know, most likely. But my goal is really to make something you could listen to. You'll be able to see it if you want to see it in a video form, but it's the kind of thing you can kind of listen to while you're doing your water change or driving your car or whatever, however you like to listen to podcasts. I'm also looking to get it broadcast more widely, so maybe put it on not only on YouTube, but on Stitcher, on Dasher, on Prancer, on Vixen. No, but seriously, I'd like to put it on iTunes and Spotify and any other places where someone might listen to podcasts. I need a little bit of time to figure that out. In the meantime, I've already started doing the interviews. I've got the Interviewtron 5000 fired up, and it's like a little mobile studio. It's on basically a real cheap stand-up desk that you could adjust. It's got 2 panels. But what I can do with it is I can actually move it around. So if I want to be in different locations, especially up here, I can also pull it over to my desk if I want to edit or do some other work too. And it's a laptop, so I can pull it off of there and go down in the living room and work down there if I want. But it's a good platform to kind of keep my extra monitor and my microphone and all the cool things that I like to use when I do videos. It'll also make doing the Show Me What You Got videos really easy. Before, I was kind of having to dismantle some of the stuff I use for work and then put it back the next day so I could work some more. Dismantle's the wrong word. Unplug some things and plug them into other things is basically the way it was. This will be much easier, much cleaner. It'll separate work and work. So look forward to a big catch-up, Show Me What You Got, coming soon. And I guess that's about it. Thanks for coming along with me and listen to me ramble about the hodgepodge of ideas and things that I've got going on, and help me clean the tank. Come along with me while I kind of do a little mini rescape and try to save this tank yet again. I like to give a tank several tries before I just give up on it. I don't think I'm really anywhere near close to giving up on this one yet. It just happens to be in my field of view, and I've not been nearly as patient as I normally am with a tank like this. I'm excited for my little blue-eyed rainbows in there. I've got 1 male and 2 females, I'm pretty sure anyway. And it might be a nice little breeding project. It's a small container, but it's so full of plants. The pencilfish bred in there, so maybe they will too. It's got pretty low water flow, which I think, I know larger rainbows seem to prefer that low water flow. So I don't know, maybe. I'm going to have to study up on that a little bit. If you guys have ever bred any of those blue-eyed rainbows, I really appreciate any tips you have in the comments down below. But it's time for me to go. I've got some water changes to do downstairs. I've got actually a lot of maintenance to do this weekend. I'm kind of catching up on some stuff. I slacked a little bit last week. So I'm going to catch up on a bunch of things. And I've got some more interviews to do. Man, I'm excited to show you these interviews. They're really crazy. The first one I had, anyway, I'll be sure to tell you about that real soon. That project is coming up around New Year's or so. Hopefully I can get it all squared away by then. But until we meet again, follow your bliss, keep a clean tank, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. The only downside I've really found with the Aquasky Light is that they, man, this video could have just been about Aquasky. It's a low hour, but this one is going to be, this one will be a bitter,